Hey there, Skullheads, I'm Snags.
And I'm old Silky.
We're back on the attack for another killer episode, so brace yourselves.
Yeah, this is a good one. Before we get into the show, we got to pimp the website, get you kids up to date. Get your tails on that snags and silky.com and order up some mugs and some stickers, t-shirts and hoodies. Christmas is but 4 weeks away.
Yeah, and buy some retroactive Thanksgiving gifts,
Yeah,
Make
Father's
up for getting
Day
drunk and being obnoxious around your family at Thanksgiving by buying them shit.
Yeah. Father's Day is next June, so
yeah, got to get on it.
Time is, ticking.
Then download our Kindle book off of there while you're at it. That's some good reading.
Damn good reading. If you're going to read anything this year,
you got to read Sink or Swim.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, good book. All right.
Jack is your friend.
Jack and Coke?
Yeah.
There you go.
Jack and
Coke. I got hot chocolate and a Misfits mug.
Hot chocolate. Speaking of Misfits, I'm wearing my Misfits shirt.
Oh, nice. I'm rocking the Motorhead today.
Oh, well, I do have the Motorhead sweatshirt.
Oh, damn. You got the Misfits and Motorhead.
Yeah, kind of a Misfits Motorhead thing working.
That's important.
Yeah.
You got all the M's covered. You just need a Megadeth baseball cap and you'll be good to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tonight's episode is on the Amazon series Bosch.
BOSCH, in case you're not hip to it.
What's interesting is Titus Welliver is the main character in Bosch.
He plays the main character. The main character is Hieronymus Bosch. That's the main character. Well, Titus plays this cat.
Yes. Well, so anyway, he plays
not a historical Hieronymus Bosch, but a current day detective named Hieronymus Bosch. All right, I'm going to shut up. Yeah. I think I've done all my interrupting I'm going to do.
Oh, we'll see about that. Hieronymus Bosch, circa 1450 to 1516, was a painter. And so it's interesting to me, if you look at Titus, his father was a landscape painter, went on to be a Yale professor, and then eventually became the dean of a college. So Titus comes from,
hoity-toity background.
Well, just the painting and all that. So, I mean, it's interesting. I would say the actor has a deep knowledge of art, or at least, brushed
Probably
against it. He studied at NYU and became good buddies with Adam Sandler. So
really?
That's kind of interesting. Yeah.
And that's awesome. That ups him in my respect level right there. He just gained a notch of respect. Adam Sandler rocked.
So Titus, you may recognize him. He's been in movies like The Doors, Mobsters, Mulholland Falls. I guess him and Ben Affleck are good buddies because Titus has been in Ben's first 4 directing, vehicles. Gone Baby Gone, The Town, Argo, Live by Night, all Ben Affleck directed movies. Titus was in there. He was also in Transformers: Age of Extinction. But so anyway, back to the Bosch thing. Michael Connelly is the author. He wrote all these Bosch novels that are, procedural cop books. I have not read them, but I've got them on a list because I like the show that much that I'm sure the books are amazing.
Let's say it together. The show is phenomenal.
Phenomenal, yes. Yes. We have just taken that word to new heights.
We had a friend of ours text us and say he just started a drinking game. I guess it was the Year of Living Dangerously episode. Every time one of us said phenomenal, he'd take a shot. He said he was completely wasted.
I love it. Not only is it a podcast, it's now a drinking game.
Yeah. Every time we say phenomenal, you gotta chug some whiskey or some white light.
We've got
the moonshine.
We've got to make a T-shirt now. Snags and Silky Show. It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
There you
fucking go. Phenomenal. I think you should say it's fucking phenomenal.
Sure. Why not piss the kids off while you're at it?
Right. Yeah.
But anyway, so do you want to just jump in? I'll talk about season 1, or do you have anything else?
You're talking about Titus's career, and he seems to, he's in all these other movies, but he's most of the time kind of a supporting character or part of an ensemble cast or something.
Mm-hmm.
And he's one of these actors who's hitting his stride late in life, you know?
Sure.
He's a older cat. And the wife and I were watching Mulholland Falls a week or so ago, and he's in there for 5 seconds. It's back in the mid-90s. He's a lot younger.
Mm-hmm.
He's a bad guy that Nick Nolte kills after about 5 seconds. I was like, holy shit, that's Bosch.
Uh-huh.
So it's interesting how some of these actors will hit their strides, hit their peak at different times in their lives.
Yeah, I don't know who he plays in The Doors.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to go back and look at that.
And you know, it's a great movie anyway. Certainly,
he's probably a roadie for about 30 seconds.
30 seconds. Yeah. So anyway, season 1 is based on the novels Concrete Blonde, City of Bones, and Echo Park. Those are all various Michael Connelly Bosch novels. So this first season, Bosch investigates 2 cases: a missing 12-year-old whose bones are found in the Hollywood Hills, and then the killing of a Hollywood producer with possible mob ties. Amidst his pursuit of the suspects, you get a flashback scene where he chases a suspect into an alley in the rain, and there's a language barrier. Although I believe he tells him in Spanish, police and drop your weapon and all that. And you actually witness in the show, you witness the perpetrator go for a gun, and Bosch takes him down. But then you're brought forward to him actually facing a civil suit from the widow in a possible wrongful shooting of this suspect. And then you get to kind of see how he's a motivated, driven detective, and he's surrounded by people who, out of jealousy or distrust, they don't like him, and you kind of take his side unknowingly. As you watch it, you're like, what is their problem? He didn't shoot the guy, or he's he's trying to get to the bottom of things, and it's just everyone around him. You either love him or hate him, but then he crosses paths with Raynard Waits, a serial killer who claims to be the 12-year-old, the killer of that 12-year-old kid. But I feel Bosch is like the true underdog. And this was reminiscent of Silence of the Lambs, especially when they get to the house where the serial killer is.
It's a really creepy season. I honestly, when I first started watching this show, I I actually had an aborted first attempt. I watched the first episode or so, and it was just so damn creepy. I was like, I can't hack this.
Mm,
And it was only after sticking with that I really got into it. But it was just like it was the first season was probably the roughest to get through for me. It was just so much hardcore, really just sad and sick shit going on, you know.
yeah, I that's what drew me to it. I was hooked. Um,
Yeah.
and I think I read a lot of procedural cop things. I just loved it. One thing,
I liked the by the end of it, I liked the writing, but it was just
uh,
it's rough going at first just because
yeah,
of the what's going on, you know.
sure. I was reminded of like Elmore Leonard, um, some of his stuff. One trait early on that I love about this show is Bosch's love of jazz, and it makes total sense to contrast the harshness of the homicide investigations, where he comes home and needs that disconnect with
Yeah.
really deep some deep cut jazz cats.
And he's got a big nice hi-fi setup, and he only listens to music on vinyl. So there's
Yeah.
scenes of him in record stores buying some old, obscure. I've gotten hipped, and I was already pretty well versed in jazz before I watched this show,
Mhm.
but I've gotten hipped to quite a few deep cut jazz cats from watching the show that I
Yeah,
wasn't really
I've
grooving on.
towards season probably the middle of season one, um, they start just having scenes where he's listening to jazz, and
Mhm.
his daughter will go, "Oh, is this Oscar Peterson or
Yeah.
is this Lou Donaldson, somebody?"
No,
And as soon as she says it, I'm writing it down,
yeah,
and
totally. Yeah.
you
I
know,
just fire up Spotify and I find the
yeah,
artist.
and most of the time it's the kind of jazz that I like. The blue
Mhm.
note jazz, all your jazz greats, they're great for a reason.
Mhm.
If you've heard of Charlie Parker, go listen to him because you'll realize, oh, yeah, this is good. Um, so that was season one for me. Really grabbed you. A lot of twists and turns. The actress that plays the lawyer, Mimi Rogers character, you you dislike her immensely, but as the show goes on, it's a very great character because there's contrast, there's everything you dislike about lawyers, but then you realize the necessary evil, if you will, of having them because she does kind of save the day a few times.
Some of the earliest noir um, in books and in movies was set in New York, but as really as the film industry kind of migrated and took hold and blossomed in L.A., more and more you had L.A. noir, and this show is just it's really top shelf premium. It's like a fine brick of hash of LA noir. It's just like
Yeah,
really good LA noir. LA itself, the city is a character. As in other LA noir classic pieces like the movie LA Confidential,
yeah.
the
LA
city,
Confidential is forever.
yeah, it's a sister
Oh,
piece to this in a lot of ways. But
yeah, yeah,
um, the city itself is a character, and the whole him being a jazz aficionado really ties in with the noir genre as well because a lot of these old noir flicks in the 50s, not as many as you think as this kind of stereotype, but a lot of them have jazz soundtracks, and it's kind of the music that's associated with the genre the most, so it kind of fits. But
Yeah, if you watch any noir, you got the lone saxophone and the Wet Streets and Mike Hammer type stuff.
yeah, some crazy
Philip
jazz cat
Marlowe.
drumming.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Um, the what was I going to say? L.A. Confidential, and just the house that Bosch lives in is almost another character. They use the view that he has over the whole city. Um, it's just done very well, and his love of jazz. If you look at the real life uh, forensic pathologist and what do they call it? Where you the profiler, Paul Holes is a legitimate. He's a real guy. He helped catch the Golden State Killer. This guy wrote a book um, on some of his cases, and in that book, he mentions how just to wind down, he'll either jump in the car on the way to a crime scene and he'll have Metallica or Slayer on, and then other times based solely on uh, going to some investigation, he needs to have like the most soft rock, uh, just mundane uh, type of music just to kind of pull him out of it. So when you discover Bosch and his love of jazz, it just made so much sense because I'd read this biography on Paul Holes, which is a great book as he profiles a bunch of like famous cases where you're like, holy shit, he was on that too. Really good real life stuff if you're into that.
cool. Yeah, I was gonna mention the house. I'm glad you brought that up. It basically they kind of set it up in the series that a book was written about him that got turned into a movie, and he got paid a crap load of money for the character rights. So even though he's this kind of blue collar detective, he was able to buy this nice little house. It's not huge or anything, but it's a nice little house perched up in the Hollywood Hills. One of those houses, if you've ever been to Hollywood, there's a lot of them in the hills that are on stilts. They don't even have a foundation.
Yeah. But the
They
view that he has, just I would just it would be amazing to sit
yeah.
in that living room every night and just
These
watch the city.
these houses they'll border the road, and then they just go out into the thin air, and there's stilts that go down onto the side of
Yeah.
the hills. And there's a lot of shots where he's out on his deck looking out over the city at night that are just poetic as hell.
Oh,
Yeah,
it really
really, really
is.
cool shit.
Just before we move on, that Paul Holes book is called Unmasked: My Life Solving America's Cold Cases. Um, really, really true, epic true crime reading, but good stuff. So
Anything else about season one before we move on to season two?
no, you go ahead and take over
All right.
for season
All
two.
right. So season two is based on books The Last Coyote, Trunk Music, and a little bit on a book called The Drop. And it basically starts 6 months after the events in season one. Bosch returns from a suspension. He investigates the murder of a Hollywood producer who appears to have mob connections. His investigation of the producer sends him to Las Vegas, where he also finds out that all is not well with his teenage daughter and his ex wife. His
Mm-hmm.
investigation almost threatens the life of his family as he is brought into another case that leads to a ring of dirty cops, the LA Confidential type stuff. There's a lot
Yes.
of police corruption in this show. Very realistic stuff. New evidence appears on the death of his mother. So the backstory for him is that he was this poor street kid, and his mother was a prostitute. And when he was young, I guess around 10 years old or so, his mother gets murdered by a John. And
Mm-hmm.
uh,
That
and he's
echoes
like,
the Elmore Leonard true life deal.
yeah. So he basically he's driven by that the rest of his life. That's why he becomes a cop, etc. He's kind of obsessed with this background. So in season 2, some evidence appears on the death of his mother, which causes him to start investigating the circumstances leading to her murder, because that was an unsolved case. And there was this whole thing where he felt like the cops didn't care about her because she was kind of she was a street hooker, and in his mind, everybody, what his little phrase is, everybody matters or no one matters.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes out of his way to any case. Every case is just as important, whether they're investigating the death of a taco vendor or a governor. He's just treats them all the same. So any thoughts from you about season 2?
What's interesting is the very beginning of season 2, probably within the first 2 or 3 episodes, I didn't like the initial case. And then the intrigue starts, the back and forth with him and Mimi Rogers, some of the underbelly of what was going on, the friction between him and his captain. You really see stuff start to spark, and I would say, as much as I love season 1, I was really ready to kind of move on, and then somewhere around episode 3 or 4, I was like, man, this is so well written. Like I was right back into it. I just
That's interesting because I liked season 1, but again, the subject matter was so rough that
yeah.
Season 2 is when I really got hooked. I was like, oh great, every season isn't going to be about kids getting murdered.
Yeah, that's it's funny how some things will just totally repulse you, and then turn around and it's like your favorite show. If you had told me, hey, there's a show about a guy that's gonna make crystal meth and
That's another
sell it,
one.
like I would have been like, yeah, I don't need to watch that, you know.
You nagged me for years to watch Breaking Bad,
Yeah.
and I started watching it, and I watched the first episode or two, and I was like, God damn, this is depressing. This guy's
Oh wow.
dying. They have to
Uh-huh.
get rid of a body. It's like, and I begged off for another few years, and then I just committed. I'm going to watch like 3 or 4 episodes, and the
Mhm.
dark humor just really started to kick in. And I was like, this is
What
phenomenal.
grabbed me with Breaking Bad was the camera work, the
Yeah.
pull massive close up of something you're not quite sure what it is, and then they come out and it's the eyeball of a stuffed animal that's singed and burned, floating in the pool, and then the
Oh
camera.
yeah, that was great. Yeah.
You're like, where do they? Like, there are too many times I'm pausing it and rewinding it to just watch that initial thing. Um, Whereas Bosch, the camera was kind of normal, very well directed. I don't want to take away from any of that, but they certainly didn't do any kind of, deep trick shots like that. But the story, it was just so well done. You just uh, cared about the characters, and that's a very powerful thing when you can make people care about the characters you're creating. You know.
Yeah, people just get in these extreme situations, where you're just like you're bracing yourself to just waiting to find out what happens next. The other thing, and we'll eventually do a Breaking Bad episode, but the other thing about Breaking Bad that was awesome was you had all this intense, crazy shit going down, And then you'd have these scenes with Badger and Skinny Pete rambling on about Star Trek or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
hilarious comic relief type stuff. I would love for them to do a Badger and Skinny Pete.
Oh, yeah, I would love that too.
Yeah.
I dare say their moment to shine was that El Camino movie that was after
Yeah.
Breaking Bad stuff. But the guys in Bosch, the two older detectives, they're nicknamed Crate and Barrel, and these guys have clearly been partners for 40 or 50 years. And what I like is you don't get the type of exposition where somebody says, look, I'm your father, and we made this, we started this business. You just got out of college, just the exposition just tells, and that's not real. That's not how people talk, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so,
Dialogue is very real in
oh,
this show.
yeah.
Yeah.
So Crate and Barrel interact with each other, and they just have such a wry, dry sense of humor and wit. They'll
They
make,
are they're kind of like an old Badger and Skinny Pete. I never thought about that, but they really
yeah,
are. They're
yeah,
like they're Abbott and Costello of the show, you know.
yeah, and they'll make little comments, and then they go back into the story, but you're like, man, that was really good. Um,
Yeah.
they also reference movies, some deep cut movies.
They're
There's a
classic movie freaks, yeah. For
there's a
all
great Kirk Douglas movie that uh, the character Beryl is watching. I believe it's Man Without a Badge, Man Without a
yeah.
Badge, something like that.
Yeah.
Just a great Western, a really good, if you can track that down.
Yeah, that's another one, you watch this Crate and Barrel scenes, get ready to write down whatever movies they're watching.
Yeah, because,
They're always talking about movies.
what I love about that is here's a director who sees a chance to tell the viewers, man, I love this Western. I'm going to put that in my show so people,
Right.
I dig
Or
that.
or a writer. Well, who
Yeah.
knows who put that, yeah. But you want to move on to season 3? Hip these cats to what
Yeah.
goes down?
Yeah, so season 3 is based on The Black Echo, which was the very first Michael Connolly book about Bosch. So season 3 is based on Black Echo and also A Darkness More Than Night. But this picks up like 16 months after season 2. Bosch is haunted with new leads to pursue on his mother's murder case. Which I like that they got into that because they keep referring to it in seasons 1 and 2, and it would make sense if it's that heart wrenching that as a as a detective that you would still continue to
Oh, hell yeah. I
keep
would.
after it.
If I was the detective and that shit was unsolved, I'd
Oh
be
yeah.
looking into it.
Yeah. So the season opens with these street kids. They're in the vicinity where a homeless veteran, Billy Meadows, is murdered. Bosch also finds himself a suspect in the murder of Ed Gunn, and that's a person who fits the MO of his mother's killer. And so he doggedly pursues this. And there's a veteran detective, Jimmy Robertson, who had worked the case, and Bosch is trying to get with him. He's also monitoring an ongoing criminal trial involving a powerful Hollywood movie mogul who's under house arrest. And so under this director's employ is a former 20 plus year police detective who turns out to be a worthy adversary against Bosch. and so you've got this bad detective and this kind of twisted movie mogul are kind of going after Bosch, trying to frame him and do wicked shit to him. And then Bosch is dealing with the new challenges with his daughter, who's now living in LA with him. Along, she started, or he's starting a relationship with a deputy DA. And add to that complexity is the introduction of a new serial murderer known as the Koreatown Killer.
Yeah, his romantic relationships are few and far between. There's actually a younger cop that he dates in the first season or the second season, or maybe throughout both. I forget. And
the redhead.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that goes south. And then he's got nothing going on for quite a while, and then he dates this deputy DA for a while. And I don't think it's really a spoiler to let people know that goes south. That's just how his love life works.
Yeah,
And
he just kind of rolls with it. There's a facial expression that Titus brings to the Bosch role where he almost bares his teeth for a second, almost like instead of spitting, he just kind of twitches his mouth a little bit out of frustration. And you see a lot of the character biting back on his words, where you want him to just blow up and really give it to somebody. But the character doesn't do that. He holds back a lot.
So this relationship with the assistant or deputy DA, she's not as young as the chick in the earlier season. She's a little closer to his age, but still younger than him. Pretty brunette.
Yeah.
And she kind of ends it. There's tension between him and the DA's office, and she gets caught up in that and kind of ends it because of that. And he just sees her out at a bar with some other guy. She never even said anything to him. And so the next time she sees that he sees her, and the next time they run into each other, I guess in the DA's office or somewhere, she's like, I hope we can still be friends. And I love his response. He's like, what's the point? And he just turns around and walks off.
Yeah. I just love it. And then, you get the real emotional bits with his daughter. In I believe season 2, the mother gets killed. And
no, that's coming up, dude.
It's coming up.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
That's I think that's in that's in the next season.
Oh, okay, because I thought because the daughter comes to live with
him. She came to live with him because there was the Chinese guy that the mother was dating had to go back to Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And so they kind of came out to live in LA. And for a while, you think he might be about to get together with his ex-wife before she gets off in the next season, which we'll talk about. But that's really fucking heartbreaking too.
Yeah. So that's season 3, kids.
So season 4 is based on the book Angel's Flight. And if you don't know what Angel's Flight is a tram in LA near Bunker Hill, which is where a ton of old noirs took place.
Nice.
This neighborhood. And it's this tram, it just goes diagonally up a hill. And so you're just taking a tram like 100 yards up a hill diagonally. And when you see it in this season 4, you'll recognize it. It was actually decommissioned for a while, like 20 years. Then they built it somewhere nearby from the original location. But if you start watching, like I have, every film noir from the 1940s and 50s, you'll see that location, the original version of Angel's Flight in Bunker Hill, show up so many times.
That's
It's a
awesome.
classic noir set piece. So he actually wrote Connolly wrote a Bosch book called Angel's Flight, and it's part of that location is part of the plot for this. So it's based on the book Angel's Flight, um, Nine Dragons, and then the book The Last Coyote. And let's see here. So basically, 3 months after season 3, civil rights attorney Howard Elias is representing a black man who is accusing the LAPD of police brutality. But Elias is murdered. Elias had a history of representing citizens who sue the LAPD, and the case produces racial strife in LA and elevated tension between the LAPD and the citizens. Police Chief Irving, who is played by, hold on, we got to mention this actor's name.
Oh, yeah. He is a phenomenal actor. He was in The Wire.
Yeah.
Just such a serious, just his deep baritone voice.
Lance Reddick. Yeah, Lance Reddick.
He plays such an intensity. Just a phenomenal actor.
Yeah, he actually passed away earlier this year, unfortunately, but great actor. He was in The Wire. So the character he plays assigns Bosch to head the task force to get to the bottom of the Elias murder, and assigns a pair of internal affairs investigators to watch Bosch's team, which includes J. Edgar,
Bosch's partner.
Bosch's partner, who is also in The Wire. Robertson and Robertson's detective trainee, some other supporting characters. Bosch's ex-wife, meanwhile, has rejoined the FBI. She used to be in the FBI, and she was making a living as a professional poker player. And when her latest marriage kind of started falling apart, she came back to LA with her daughter, and started working for the FBI again. She's pursuing a gang of Chinese nationals. The investigation leads to her being murdered in a drive-by shooting, which is probably one of the most shocking moments in the series, because you don't expect her to bite the bullet.
Not at all. And you had the kind of the Japanese mafia, the
Chinese mafia.
Yeah. What are they called? The
triads. Yeah.
You had some kind of interaction with the triad thing, and you're like, oh man, she needs to go into hiding. And so I thought, okay, this would be a natural thing where Bosch gets the love interest going with the ex-wife. And but it's like any character where you're like, like Mike Hammer suddenly getting married and settling down, you're like, what? You would never want that. So as much
Bosch is a loner. He doesn't lay the cable as much as Mike Hammer.
Yeah.
Like Mike Hammer's a loner, but he's always keeping it wet. You know what I mean?
He's slinging the hash. Definitely.
Yeah. Bosch, it's like a little bit here and there, followed by many, many months of just sitting around in his house listening to jazz, right?
And he'd almost rather that. Whereas Mike Hammer, he's getting slick him on the hang down
constantly. Yeah. He's cutting the rug with the rug.
He's a real swordsman, as they say.
Yeah, he's surfing that whisker biscuit constantly.
Hell yeah.
So all right. So and at the end of season 4, Bosch gains a vital clue into his mother's murder after the long retired detective of his mother's case is killed. So there was this guy he would go visit who was the case detective on his mother's murder.
The guy lived in a
retirement home.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he would go pump him for information every now and then. And that home burns down. The fire started in that guy's room, so it seems suspicious, and that's kind of how season 4 ends.
Yeah. So season 5, based on the book Two Kinds of Truth, this picks up 15 months later after season 4. A murder conviction is brought into question from an old case that Bosch worked, possibly affecting other past convictions and endangering his career. So, this could lead to Bosch losing. Where they're going to drag out every case he signed off on, um, and possibly overturn them. So this is where he goes and gets Mimi Rogers' character, hires her, even though she was out to get him in a few seasons. He knows, you know what, this is the
She's
type
good.
of dog that's not going to let go.
Yeah.
So he gets her. Um, and then he's also dealing with an embittered former girlfriend who accuses Bosch of planting evidence and believes a claim of new DNA evidence purporting to tie another criminal to the crime. So, like I said, Bosch hires Honey Chandler to defend him against the charges of planting evidence. And Bosch and Jerry are investigating the murder of a pharmacist who has, through his son, been involved in dispensing opiates. During their investigation, they determine there's a significant opiate dealing network, possibly controlled by Russian and Armenian gangsters. So Bosch goes undercover to learn more about their organization. This was a great season because of
It really was.
the undercover bit. I believe the whole thing opens with him undercover, and then they don't explain that. You have to just
You have to
continue.
wait. Yeah, they show him undercover, about to get caught, and then they go back to the beginning of the season, and you have to wait many episodes to figure out what the hell that was all. He was at some kind of rundown trailer park, undercover as a raggedy meth head type of guy, and
Done
you're like,
so well.
what the hell?
Yeah.
What was that all about? And you got to wait to find out.
Yeah. And then the actress that plays his daughter, she works as an intern in the LA DA's office. So, as a young attorney mentions a case against her father, Maddie observes bad intent from the CIU investigator, Bosch's former girlfriend, and relays her suspicions to her dad. So, as Bosch is going along, he's able to get some kind of, um, back office rumor type shit, which just gives him, an edge as he goes through some of this stuff.
It's interesting in this show because, and I'm sure in the novels, because none of these characters are 100% black or white when it comes to the dark side or the light side of the human psyche.
Yeah.
Even the innocent daughter unethically photographs these files that the DA is prepping against her dad and texts them to the defense lawyer. And you see this, everybody's just trying to get through, and they cut corners here and there. It's very it keeps it a lot more interesting than just
it's
dragnet where Jack Webb is pristine and the bad guy.
It's not possible. I don't think you can run through these types of situations and not come away with some of that corruptness all over you. Like paint on a fence, Chief Irving,
a fart in the wind.
Yeah. Chief Irving is frustrated by Bosch's lack of communication about the murder, the old case with newly discovered evidence, and his undercover work. Lieutenant Billets covers nicely for Bosch, risking her own position. Irving's approached by Mayor Vargas's political consultant with the news that he could be a serious contender in the next mayoral election. So during all this, Bosch going undercover and all this, they do manage to drag in that kind of political corrupt, hey, we'll promote you, but you gotta, grease the wheels. And it's very believable.
Mhm.
You know, very nicely done. By the end of season 5, I was absolutely hooked to the show on so many levels. His daughter is just filthy hot, and but
After
comes
she
off
after she turns 18, she's
right
filthy. Yeah.
as she as she comes along. You notice more and more just how stunningly beautiful she is.
Yeah, she really is cute. Yeah.
But what makes her even more attractive is she's just razor sharp,
Yeah.
smart and all that, and that's appealing as well. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so that's season 5. A lot going on.
Yeah, it's and this is one of those shows that once you get hooked into, you just find yourself binging. I would text Silky, he'll text me some screenshot of something he's watching, and I just text back Bosching, and then
Hmm.
a couple hours later, still Bosching, and
And thank God you could binge this. So I can't imagine if you would have like when I was watching it. These were brand new shows, and everybody was
you had to
talking
wait a
about it.
week, had to wait
Yeah,
a week for the
it was
yeah.
torture.
And
Um,
like my wife would come in the room, what do you want? Oh, Bosch again? And I'm like,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah.
she would eventually at one point she sits down and I have these headphones connected to the TV so I'm not bothering her when I'm binging.
Uh-huh.
And so she couldn't hear the dialogue. She's just watching it while she's eating something. And I'm watching it with the headphones on. And eventually she's like, all right, fucking turn the sound up. Because it was so interesting, even without the dialogue.
Sure.
Almost got her hooked. She watched a few episodes with me, but
Uh-huh.
and then she walked, not because she didn't like it, but it's like why you stay away from heroin. Heroin, probably, I've never done it, but I've heard from people that have. It makes you feel really good, and then you're
The
hooked.
whole death and losing your teeth and
Yeah, well, that part sucks.
the
And I'm sure if you
vomiting.
binge TV, like if you went to the extremes of binging TV, where you don't get up and go to the bathroom and you don't
Oh
eat,
yeah, it could be unhealthy.
same stuff would happen.
Sure.
But
Sure.
anyways, it really is an addictive show because it's so well done. So season 6 is based on The Overlook and Dark Sacred Night. So a lot of Bosch books. I'm gonna have to start reading those.
Yeah,
This is
yeah, they're on my
yeah,
list.
this is 11 months after season 5. A medical physicist is executed, and the deadly radioactive material he had with him goes missing. Bosch finds himself at the center of a complex murder case, a messy federal investigation, and a possibly catastrophic threat to Los Angeles, the city he has pledged to serve and protect. So the character, the main background character, the City of Angels, she is under threat,
Oh,
and
yeah.
they think, and it's basically the main suspects at first are an extremist kind of anti-government group,
Yeah, kind
and
of the
then
SLA uh what's her name? Patty Hearst
Symbiote
type.
Liberation Army. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
one of
yeah.
those kind of, and basically, and then as you get more into the case, it's not so simple. Yeah, Patty Hearst. Thank you. Yeah,
That's it.
as you, I got a peanut gallery listening here, but
Right.
as we get more into the case, it gets a lot more interesting and not as simplistic as you thought. And I won't spoiler alert what's actually going on, but there's a nice twist, and it's a slow twist from like
Yeah.
mid season where it twists into this different thing that's going on. You realize what's actually going on, and
Yeah, 'cause go ahead.
there's different ways to write a mystery, right? Another show I've been binging lately is Columbo, and uh, Columbo Columbo, the murders always happen at the front of the episode. You already know who did it,
Yeah.
Columbo doesn't, and you watch him figure it out and nail these bastards to the wall. And what's so interesting is how he nails them to the wall, and it really never gets old. Bosch is the other way to do a mystery where you're kind of more with the person who's investigating it, and you
Mhm.
don't know what's going on,
Yeah.
and the excitement is in finding out exactly what's going on. And they execute that template masterfully in season 6. I think it's the
Yeah,
way it.
your mention of Columbo, I dare say one of the first shows to do that, where you know who the killer is. That went on to um Canon, which is a tremendous 6 seasons, maybe five.
Silky bought the complete DVD set of Canon. He's been
Yeah,
binging it lately,
it's
and
amazing.
he won't stop texting me about it.
Yeah. So Canon does the same thing where you spend the whole episode watching him
Figure
figure
it out.
out who the
Yeah.
but not nearly the level that Columbo um, and Barnaby Jones is another Quinn Martin Streets of San Francisco. They had quite the run of early '70s cop shows. Um,
Mhm.
but Barnaby Jones is another, and in that universe, um, uh, Cannon makes appearances on Barnaby Jones.
Oh,
Um,
there you go.
so
Crossover.
yeah, crossover.
I think
And
what we need is a Bosch Breaking Bad crossover. I think that shit
I'd be
would.
wicked. Maybe Bosch goes after,
Walter White comes back to life, and Bosch goes
and
after
Bosch
him.
goes after him. God help him if he did.
Or he could bust Skinny Pete and
Yeah,
Badger.
I'd be
Yeah,
fine with that. That'd be good. Um,
totally fuck him up.
yeah. So I guess on to season 7. This is based on The Burning Room, book by Michael Connolly. And this picks up 4 months after season 6. New Year's Eve, a 10-year-old girl dies in an arson fire. Detective Bosch risks everything to bring her killer to justice despite opposition from powerful forces. Detective Jerry Edgar falls apart as he grapples with the consequences of shooting Jacques Avril, a really nasty character that features in season 4 and 5, or 5 and 6, I believe. Um, and then Maddie assists Honey Chandler on a high profile case that draws Bosch in and puts them in the crosshairs of dangerous criminals. Um, Much like the other seasons, this really you have a running kind of sub story where Honey Chandler is continuing to be the high end lawyer, but continuing to kind of um, cut corners. I don't think they set out to go corrupt, but as things came up and as you got all these plates spinning and you're trying to keep
Yeah.
up with everything, I just think it
And just wait till Bosch Legacy when you see them really going off the chain.
yeah. So season 7 ends. Should we give the the ending, or do you want to leave that vague?
Hey, let's leave it vague. Just say it's a good
Okay.
season. And
Well, yeah, and a kind of a career ender based
yeah,
on certain things, and that wraps up. You're left thinking, "Holy shit, that's it." And
yeah. He basically, I think we can say it because we're going to say it anyways. He
yeah,
quits the force.
yeah,
He gets
he
pissed off and quits the force,
throws
right?
his badge down
Yeah,
based on specific things that
right.
occur.
Which
Um,
you'll get hip to when you watch it. But
yeah.
yeah.
Um,
So that leads us to Bosch Legacy, which is a spin-off series. These are still based on Bosch books. So season 1 of Bosch Legacy is based on book number 19, The Wrong Side of Goodbye, and book number 22, The Night Fire. So there's a ton of Bosch books. If you
Yeah.
want to find one private detective series, book series to read for the rest of your life,
That's not Mike Hammer.
it's not My Camera, which
We
also has a ton of
will
books.
condone
Yeah.
the Bosch books.
Oh man, if Bosch could go back in time and bust some heads with Mike Hammer together,
Yeah,
could you imagine that team?
and he could have Perry Mason,
Yeah,
in the corner.
Perry Mason's milk toast compared to these two cats. Bosch and Mike
Perry did
Hammer
it.
together, just cracking heads, man.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Anyways, so season 1 of Bosch Legacy
It's really season 8 of because it just continues right
picks
after.
right, yeah. So Bosch has retired from the LAPD and works as a private investigator. Defense attorney Honey, and her nickname is Money, Honey Money Chandler, has him work on some cases for her. His daughter Maddie navigates her first days as a patrol officer with the LAPD, so she ends up, she's joined the force, working from Hollywood Station where her father used to be assigned. Bosch investigates businessman, this hedge fund tycoon Carl Rogers,
Mm-hmm.
who previously hired a hitman to kill Chandler. They have a different actor playing Carl Rogers in this season, which is interesting. I guess they couldn't get the other guy back.
Mm-hmm.
Billionaire businessman Whitney Vance asked Bosch to discreetly investigate a private matter. So they're going after this guy, uh, who basically hired a hitman, uh, to kill Honey Chandler, and he eventually hires a hitman to kill Maddie. I don't. I think that might have been in this season as well, or was that in season 7, where
Uh,
the guy's going after Bosch's daughter, the
I
hitman?
I think that was in season 7.
Yeah. Anyways, one of these seasons, so it gets real personal with Bosch and
That was
Bosch.
season 7.
Bosch and Chandler um, basically go after this corrupt hedge fund tycoon who hired the hitman to kill Honey and Maddie. And this is where there was a little corruption on these people before, but when it gets this personal, they just go off the grid and do whatever they have to do to get this guy, and it's gets really interesting. That's one of the more interesting seasons, I think. Season 1 of Legacy for
Yeah,
sure.
and I think as a long-term detective, you would get frustrated with following the law to such a strict letter of the law where you just don't have the evidence, but the guy's guilty, and so he just gets to walk
Yeah,
free.
and he tried to kill your daughter.
Yeah, you're gonna
Right? Fuck
yeah.
that. It's
you,
time. All gloves off.
yeah,
Brass knuckle
yeah.
time. And
That's really. I know for a fact if something happened to my kids, El Condor, or his sister, um, I I would just do whatever I had to do.
yeah,
There would
there's
be
some things you just don't fuck with. And
yeah, yeah,
one of the more interesting characters in Bosch Legacy is this cat Stephen Chang plays a character called Maurice Mo Bassi, and Mo Bassi is basically a guy who Bosch hires to do computer hacking for him. He'll bug houses for him or check Bosch's car for bugs. He's a technology geek, and he's got this long kind of Fu Manchu beard, and he's
a
a
real
jazz.
jazz head, which I like.
Yeah, he's a jazz head too. So there's a lot of banter between Bosch and him about jazz, and it's funny because he's a younger cat. So every now and then Bosch will be like, "Man, isn't that a little loud?" He'll walk into Mo's loft, and he'll be like, "What the hell is you listening to? And isn't that a little loud?" And he's like, "It's cutting edge West Coast jazz, man. It's supposed to be loud." It's like new shit that Bosch hasn't heard before. It's the
Yeah,
banter.
they dropped a couple artists that I had to track down, and you really kind of throw caution to the wind, and you just try, like, I have to figure out what he said here, because there's
I can tell you the two main artists that Mo Bassi drops. I've made Spotify playlists for them. Hold on a second. I had the subtitles on, so I caught the spelling. Hold on.
his name's like something Washington.
Yeah, hold on. I gotta scroll down in my shit. I don't, one cat's name is Christian Scott. Does
Yeah,
some
that dude
yeah,
is phenomenal.
yeah, he's like a Sun Ra type of cat.
Yeah,
Well,
Horace Tapscott was one.
well,
Christian,
Horace Tapscott's an earlier cat that Bosch drops
yeah,
in the original series. But Mo Bassi's listening to this cutting edge new stuff, and it really is. If you look it up on Spotify, this is brand new jazz cats that came out in the last couple of years. So
Kamasi, Washington.
yeah, Kamasi Washington is the other one, and his stuff is real orchestrated. I haven't quite got through his stuff yet because there's a lot of like orchestration behind it. It's rich, lush, but bizarre.
Yeah,
Christian Scott, his stuff is really just kind of wild. He kind of reminds me of Sun Ra.
yeah, Sun Ra's wicked.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I guess we can discuss. Well, we'll finish with
Season 2 of
season
Legacy.
2. So at the end of season 1 of Bosch Legacy, which realistically is season 8 of the show.
We established that, yes.
Yeah. So season 2 picks up right where season 1 left off. Maddie gets kidnapped. And this is based on The Crossing and The Wrong Side of Goodbye. Both books are kind of part of season 2. So Maddie's kidnapped. Bosch and Honey Chandler work together to try and catch a killer while dodging the suspicions of the FBI as suspects in a case from season 1, the killing of Carl Rogers.
Right.
So there's a lot going on. Carl Rogers is a real shady fucker. Once he gets killed by the Russians, Honey Chandler goes, okay, well, there's no point in pursuing this case. So she kind of, wraps everything up. But then the FBI has, they've got recordings. They've got, they're really trying to nail these.
Yeah. It's not as simple as him getting killed by the Russians. Basically, Bosch and Honey Chandler back this fucker into a corner to the point where he gets killed by the Russians. And they do some really, we won't give it away, but they do some real out of the box shit that the FBI starts investigating them for. And I won't give it away because it's exciting, interesting stuff. But so yeah, they're season 2. They're getting investigated by the FBI for all this shit they did to get Carl Rogers to the point where the Russian mob took care of him. And then there's this whole sequence where Maddie Bosch gets kidnapped, and I'm just going to give a little bit away here. Gets buried in a coffin in the desert with an air pipe sticking out of the coffin, and they've got to track her down before she dies of dehydration or whatever. And it just reminded me, it's probably the most melodramatic sequence in the whole series, combined series, because it just reminded me of like those melodramas where Penelope Pitstop gets kidnapped by Duke Dastardly and tied to the railroad tracks. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And, but it's intense, and you're glued to the TV until it gets resolved. It's pretty wild.
And this was the there was like a window rapist that was going around, and as Maddie is becoming an officer and really getting her sea legs to investigate, she almost catches the guy, and then she kind of tracks tracks down a possible suspect, and then that rapist realizes, holy shit, she's too close. So then he works out a possible way to kidnap her, and he does not plan on her surviving, but he plans on, um, if he gets caught, that he can plead insanity or whatever. And
Well, he's using her as a pawn. He uses her to
yeah,
negotiate. He's like, I'll I'll tell you where your daughter is if you give me a plea deal of some kind or whatever.
right,
It's some whack-a-mole plan that only a psycho would think was going to work. But
right, really
it's
well,
it's yeah, it's well done.
really well done. And they do kind of find her, but the you're left finally just waiting on season 3. Um,
And so season 3 hasn't dropped yet. But there are plans for a couple spin-off shows. They're going to do one on Jerry Edgar, aka J. Edgar,
mhm,
who's Bosch's partner, which I'm glad because when you go to the Bosch Legacy series, even though it's kind of a continuation of the previous series, now that he's left the police department, there's some major supporting characters that you kind of miss. There's Crate and Barrel still show up in Legacy because he hires them to help him with his private investigations and some of the crazy capers that the
mhm.
FBI ends up investigating them for. But J. Edgar only shows up once or twice doing a favor for Bosch or something. Lieutenant Billets was the lieutenant of the precinct where they all worked. She was just like kind of uh, tough, no nonsense lesbian chick who
Yeah,
loved all the people who worked under her, and um, basically somebody he could totally always rely on.
yeah,
You miss her. Um, so the fact that at least they're bringing back Jerry Edgar and giving
yeah.
him
It's a
his
great
own show.
character.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
glad. I'm definitely gonna binge that one. And then they're gonna do a spin-off. There was a character in the novels, a LAPD detective named Renee Ballard, who they haven't cast yet because she didn't show up in the TV show. They're gonna do a spin-off with her. So
yeah, they refer to that shift as the night show, and I believe that's one of the books,
mm,
um, the night show, and that's gonna
cool.
kind of be the basis of the spinoff. But so that was all announced in November. So you're probably looking, 10 episodes in each season. Um, even you're talking a week ago that they had it all greenlit. So they're probably either in the writing process now. Um, so you're probably going to have to scour the books, rewatch some of the episodes for continuity. You're probably going to see this stuff next summer.
And that same article, I found an article on that. Also said Amazon just dropped a bunch of money for the rights to the Tomb Raider franchise. So they're probably going to do a Tomb Raider TV show. And the question is, will it be the kick-ass Angelina Jolie scantily clad Tomb Raider, or will it be this politically correct reboot they did where she's wearing long sleeves and jeans?
Oh,
And
come
you
on.
have to hope for the former,
Oh my
you know,
God.
but we'll see.
Yeah, you need ass eater khakis
Yeah,
and
a little
the
tank top with no bra, you know.
yes, because the outer shirt got stained somehow, and
Yeah.
we just got to get that off. So, and now it's a little cold, but she's just got to
Right.
keep running. Um, yeah,
We'll
um,
see. Well, the suspense is killing us. But
yeah,
anyways, if you haven't checked out Bosch, or if you watched a couple episodes and didn't really get hooked, just ride that first season out and it'll be like you just huffed a bag of crack cocaine. Seriously.
or yeah, you know, just a love of procedural cop shows and something that's well written and brilliantly acted. And there's just not enough shows like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, too many
Hey,
times just bad acting and garbage. Um, and I will say, this has been a great episode for me to do. Where if you go back to last season of the Snags and Silky show, um, we did an episode with Mudcat, and in that episode, I was able to tell everyone about Fat Matt's Rib Shack, and that was a real coup for me because I almost wanted to do a show on this restaurant,
so
and their
tell
ties
us,
to the
tell
blues.
our millions of new listeners who are just tuning in what Fat Matt's Rib Shack is.
Um, it is a so in Atlanta there used to be a Dunkin' Donuts there, and we used to go there growing up all the time. And then the Dunkin' Donuts shut down, and there was a period where there was nothing in that building. And then one day, you know, this new restaurant opens up called Fat Matt's Rib Shack, and I had now at this point I had been kicked out of the house. 17th birthday, um, Snags
This is the
gave.
long answer to
Yeah,
what Fat.
sure. Well, why not? Snags gave me a cassette of Sam and Dave and a cassette of Muddy Waters, like a greatest hits thing. But when you're left destitute and miserable, um, something like that is as it probably costs like $8, just cheap cassettes, but they just kept me going. And so here's Fat Matt's Rib Shack and all this deep country blues and chess blues and just so integral in my coming up in music, and then
So
coupled
what
with
what it is it's a
ribs.
bar. I'm going to tell them what it is. It's a barbecue joint with live blues music. That's what it is.
Yeah, and it's just an epic place,
Yeah.
a landmark. Mick Jagger has gone there. Jack Black from acting and Tenacious D. A lot of celebrities have come through that place. But it was cool to mention that in the episode with Mudcat, and actually be able to tell some people about that restaurant. But with Bosch, we touch on jazz, and jazz is such a universe of who do I even begin to listen to with jazz. You could easily fall down the the bad jazz. I don't even want to mention some of these hideous people, but you
Kenny
know,
G.
Kenny G, uh, David Sanborn.
Yeah.
Although David did play on some legitimate things, but then went to hell. Um, just there's a lot of bad jazz, and if you don't know, you're like, yeah, I don't like this. But if you go back to the Blue Note jazz, mid '50s to the mid '70s, it's just impossible to listen to that stuff and not find uh, some real passion and power in that stuff. And so Bosch throughout the series plays jazz. So I put together a ridiculously lengthy jazz playlist for this episode, um, titled "It's the Jazz, Brother."
So
And
just to show you cats how obsessive old Silky is, he created a 78-hour jazz playlist just for you cats. That's how dedicated this motherfucker is.
so I would strongly tell you, if you're gonna attempt this playlist, put it on random and crank it up, and it's going to take you all over the place. Um,
as an extra added bonus feature, I was just searching on Spotify, and some cat named Perry Bookstad made a complete Harry Bosch jazz playlist. So he apparently, while he was watching the series, every time a piece played, he figured out what it was. I'll put that on there too, so you get
Yeah,
the.
is any of that are the songs all there? Because there were some that I'd seen where they had a couple, but nothing.
I don't know. It just says
Like
it's
before you
11
put it on
hours
there, make
complete
sure it's
Harry
all
Bosch. And as I scroll through it, I recognize a lot of these cats that
okay.
Bosch was playing, like Frank Morgan and fucking uh, Art Art Blakey and
See, all that's in this playlist that I did.
Kasami Washington and all these
Mhm.
cats. Yeah, well, your playlist is like if you want to just delve into the genre of jazz, you got 78 hours of an ocean
Yeah,
here.
you can't, and it's
And
all the good stuff. You're not gonna get anything
yeah.
that's not from the heart and all that. So
And this one is basically just all the jazz pieces you hear in the series. So I think between those two, you cats will get a good fill of awesome shit to listen to. So
but listen to mine because mine's like worthy.
yeah, don't hurt his feelings and only
Yeah,
listen to
for
the other
fuck's
ones.
sake. Yeah, I just put this together and you undermine me with some
I didn't undermine you with it. I just looked it up and there it was. So gotta have that.
some loser puts one together. It's fine.
Damn,
Um,
insecure. Um, all right. So you can either listen to this one or you can listen to the every jazz record known to man, Old Silky
the
playlist, or you
amazingly
can
compiled.
listen to both of them.
No,
Um,
or
and
mine.
we'll obviously include the links to the two shows, and you cats can dig on this
Yeah,
shit.
and the Michael Connolly books. Check out that Paul Holes book too, um, for further reading of true crime stuff.
Speaking of true crime, and this is me, Johnny Come Lately shit. 10 years ago or so, this series, True Detective, was released on
Oh,
HBO. I finally get around to watching the first season, and literally Friday, I think it was Friday, no, it was Saturday night. I start watching episode 1 at 9 p.m. And that first season with Michael McConaughey and Woody from
Woody
Cheers,
Harrelson.
Woody Harrelson, fucking is so well written. I binged the whole 8 episode season from 9 p.m. at night until 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
It was phenomenal.
What
Did
was
I say
funny to
phenomenal yet?
me is you texted me saying I'm watching uh, True Detective, and I'm like, Jesus
Well,
Christ.
this happens all the time
This,
because you
yeah,
you spend your whole life watching TV, and I
like
go out and do
10,
things.
10 yeah, okay. Uh,
Every now and then,
10
I'll
years
text him and I'll be like,
10 years
"This
later.
this movie's amazing." He's like, "Jesus, I saw that movie 11 years ago." Well, it's new to me. It's new to me, man. I'm digging it.
I
So,
will say, check out season 2 of that. I didn't like it. Season 3 is supposed to be back to the fold of what season 1 was.
you're not the only one who's told me season 2 blows chunks.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Give it a shot though. You might, I'm always one to check it out
I've
for
actually
yourself.
latched onto this. There's this cat Sebastian Gutierrez who he's kind of like a poor man's Tarantino,
Uh-huh.
and he's done quite a few genre movies. And he did a series on HBO called Jet, Jett, and it's about this female, kick-ass female thief, and she does all these heists and stuff. Really sexy action,
Mhm.
intrigue stuff. I'm kind of hooked on that right now, but they
Yeah.
only have 9 episodes, 8 or 9 episodes of Jet that were made in 2019. It's on the HBO Max
Oh, okay.
platform.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, and when I'm done with that, um, I might check out more of True Detective. Maybe
Yeah.
check out season 3.
Jesus Christ.
Dag.
Right
So,
on.
anyways, we're rambling at this point. We should cut this off.
Let's cut this off. Great episode on Bosch, and we covered a lot. Check all that out. Check out our website.
I agree with your review. This was a great episode.
Yeah. Check out our website. Check out the links and the playlist. Get some jazz knowledge in your life.
Yeah, get some
good stuff.
Get some jazz. All right. Peace out. Keep it real. We'll see you cats next time.
Word. See ya.
So, were you playing Look It Up?
Yeah, I'm trying to close this out, and that's what's...
And you got Lick It Up. What I like the fact we closed out a jazz-centric episode. We went all this time without mentioning Kiss, and in the very end,
all the people,
you blast Lick It Up.
And it was just whatever the phone had on.
Kiss, Lick It Up is just randomly on your phone. But anyways, what's hilarious is that Kiss will just not go away. They show up in every episode. All right. Well, that's a good way to end it. See you cats next time.